Well before the year 1500, the lands we now know as Nigeria were a rich collection of states, a vibrant patchwork reflecting the ethnic groups that still exist today. These early states gave birth to the Yoruba kingdoms, the regal Edo kingdom of Benin, the bustling Hausa cities, and the beautiful land of Nupe. Small states scattered to the west and south of Lake Chad were swallowed up or displaced by the burgeoning power of Kanem, a kingdom nestled to the northeast of Lake Chad. And Borno, once just the western province of Kanem, proudly declared independence in the late 14th century. We've heard whispers of other states too, lost in the mists of time due to the absence of archaeological data and reliance on oral traditions. Now, let's stroll through the Yoruba kingdoms and Benin, where the Yoruba people have long held sway on the west bank of the Niger. This dynamic group has a diverse origin, a melting pot of migrant waves who over time, wove together a shared language and culture. The Yoruba's humble beginnings were in agriculture-based village communities organized along patrilineal descent lines. But around the 11th century AD, something remarkable happened. Neighboring village compounds, known as Isle, began merging to form territorial city-states. Loyalties to the clan took a backseat to allegiance to a dynastic chieftain, giving birth to a thriving, urbanized society pulsating with artistic achievements. Terracotta and ivory sculptures, intricate metal castings at Ife, and an array of bronze and brass artifacts crafted by Yoruba artisans graced this cultural landscape. Belief systems flourished in the Yoruba realms, presided over by a divine entity, a Loran, and a host of minor deities entrusted with cosmic and practical roles. Among them, Odudwa was revered as the creator of the earth and the forefather of the Yoruba kings. According to Yoruba mythos, Odudwa founded the city of Ife and sent his sons to establish other cities, where they reigned as priest-kings and directed cult rituals. These myths have been seen as metaphorical narratives of the historical process through which Ife's ruling dynasty exerted its influence over Yorubaland. The stories seek to legitimize the Yoruba monarchies by attributing them divine origins. Ife was the beating heart of over 400 religious cults. The Oni, king, cleverly used these traditions to strengthen his political standing during the kingdom's golden era. Ife stood as a bustling hub of a vast trading network extending to the north. The Oni sustained his court through trade tolls, tributes from dependencies, and tithes collected as a religious leader. Ife's most enduring legacy to modern Nigeria, its exquisite sculpture associated with this vibrant tradition. The Oni, the ruler of the land, was chosen from the expansive branches of the ruling dynasty, a clan that boasted thousands of members. Once chosen, the Oni would retreat into the seclusion of the palace compound, forever hidden from the view of his people. Below him, palace officials, town chiefs, and rulers of external dependencies kept the kingdom running smoothly. These officials acted as the voice of the Oni and rulers of dependent territories, all of whom had their own chain of command. Every office, including the Onis, required widespread community support. Officials were picked from clan members with a hereditary right to hold office. Members of the royal lineage were often tasked with governing dependencies while the sons of palace officials took on secondary roles. In the 15th century, Ife's political and economic influence was overtaken by Oyo and Benin, although Ife retained its religious significance. The Oni of Ife's priestly role and the shared origin story played a key part in shaping Yoruba ethnicity. The Oni of Ife held the highest political position, recognized not only among the Yoruba but also in Benin, granting Benin's rulers the symbols of their power. The model of government established in Ife was adapted in Oyo, where a ruler brought several smaller city-states under his command. A state council, the Oyo Messi, had the responsibility of choosing the Alafin, king, from the proposed candidates from the ruling dynasty and acted as a balance to his authority. Unlike the Yoruba kingdoms nestled within the forest, Oyo was a savanna kingdom, gaining its strength from its cavalry forces, allowing it to expand its trade routes farther north. To the east of Ife, an established agricultural community in the Edo-speaking area became a dependency of Ife in the early 14th century. By the 15th century, it had grown independent, becoming a major trading power. The king, or Oba, guided by a council of 6 hereditary chiefs, held political and religious power. At its zenith, Benin might have housed 100,000 inhabitants, spreading over 25 square kilometers within 3 rings of earthworks. The administration of this urban complex was handled by 60 trade guilds, each with its own neighborhood, whose members were loyal to the Oba. Unlike the Yoruba kingdoms, Benin developed a centralized system to manage its growing territories. By the late 15th century, Benin was trading with Portugal, and at its height, it even encompassed parts of southeastern Yorubaland and a small Igbo area on the western bank of the Niger. Dependencies were managed by royal family members, scattered throughout the kingdom to prevent any rebellion against the Oba. From this snapshot, it's clear that the histories of Yoruba and Benin are entwined, extending even to the west of Nigeria, into what is now the Republic of Benin. This relationship persisted both before and after the 1500s. Picture a society that flourishes without centralized political entities. This fascinating concept is not an outcome of modern socio-political experiments but has its roots buried deep within the rich history of the Igbo society. A cluster of brilliant minds propound that, prior to the intrusion of colonial rule, the Igbo society was a stateless entity, flourishing in its unique, autonomous glory. In this intriguing realm, the Igbo, known for their balanced societal structure, thrived in self-sufficient clusters of villages. Lineage was the bedrock of their societal organization, acting as an ironclad shield against the incursion of social stratification. A person's fitness to govern didn't rely on birthright, riches, or strength, but rather on the wisdom that was wrought through the crucible of age and experience. In the midst of this harmonious communal life, yams ruled the roost, as subsistence farming reigned supreme. Land, the source of this life-giving crop, was a tangible symbol of wealth, gained not through conquest, but through the more peaceful process of inheritance. Complementing their farming prowess were their well-honed skills in handicrafts and commerce, creating a dynamic local economy that flourished amidst a bustling population. In the absence of traditional chieftaincy, certain Igbo communities relied on an innovative system of priestly order. These priests, hailed from the outskirts of Igboland, were believed to be the impartial adjudicators, settling community disputes with divine wisdom. Their pantheon, reminiscent of the Yorubas, teemed with deities that maintained a beautiful symmetry with humanity, echoing the egalitarian essence of the Igbo society itself. Among the multitude of gods, the central figure was Ala, the Earth Mother, a symbol of fertility, whose shrines dotted the expanse of Igboland. The puzzle surrounding the statelessness of the Igbo society, however, remains incomplete. This theory stumbles upon the lack of historical evidence painting a vivid picture of the pre-colonial Igbo world. The gap between the archaeological treasures of Igbo Ukwu, exhibiting a thriving culture around the 8th century AD, and the 20th century oral narratives is vast and mysterious. Notably, the importance of the Ni kingdom is often lost in the annals of history. Though geographically compact, it carries the weighty legacy of being the cradle of Igbo culture. Furthermore, the influence of the Benin kingdom on the Western Igbo presents a complex layer to this narrative, as they incorporated political structures akin to the Yoruba Benin region. This jigsaw puzzle of history awaits to be deciphered, piece by piece, illuminating the full scope of the Igbo societal structure and culture. In the 3rd millennium BC, as the Sahara Desert slowly extended its grip, the early inhabitants adapted, scattering into the vast savanna landscapes. This geographical shift, in turn, gave birth to the trans-Saharan trade routes, establishing a link between the Western Sudan and the Mediterranean, a link that remained active until the end of the 19th century. These same routes allowed the potent influence of Islam to seep into West Africa after the 9th century AD. By then, a series of dynamic states, including the initial Hausa kingdoms, unfurled across the western and central Sudan. Among them, Ghana, Gao, and Kanem were the titans, though not located within modern Nigeria's borders. These states profoundly influenced Nigeria's savanna history, indirectly imprinting their cultural and economic footprint. Even as these Western empires lacked a significant political influence on the Nigerian savanna states before 1500, their cultural and economic imprints were evident and amplified in the 16th century, particularly due to their association with Islam and trade. The history of Borno intertwines closely with Kanem, which, by the 13th century, had risen to imperial status in the Lake Chad basin. Governed by the Saifawa dynasty, descendants of pastoralists who settled around Lake Chad in the 7th century, the king, or Mai, of Kanem ruled as a constitutional monarch in consultation with a council of peers. As with the Western empires, Islam became an essential part of their culture in the 11th century. It was used to bolster the political and social structures of the state, while retaining many established customs. Women, for instance, still exercised significant political influence. Borno's prosperity hinged on its role in the trans-Sudanic slave trade and the desert trade in salt and livestock. It was a center of Islamic culture and learning, earning fame for its court and mosques under the scholarly king's patronage. Despite its political vulnerability during this era, it remained a beacon of Islamic culture and wisdom. By the 11th century, certain house estates, like Kano, Katsina, and Gobir, morphed into walled towns that flourished as trade hubs. These towns serviced caravans, manufactured cloth and leather goods, and the surrounding farmlands yielded millet, sorghum, sugarcane, and cotton. However, until the 15th century, these house estates remained on the fringes of the era's prominent empires. As per tradition, the Hausa rulers were descendants of Bayezid, a founding hero of supposed Middle Eastern origins. Surrounded by more potent Sudanic kingdoms, each house estate developed unique military, economic, or religious specialties. The states coexisted without anyone dominating the others, but the influences of Songhai to the west and Kanem Borno to the east were palpable. The primary motivators for war were economic interests, such as capturing slaves or gaining control of pivotal trade routes. In these Hausa cities, trade was the realm of the common folk, organized through self-regulating guilds that collected taxes and pledged loyalty to the Saki, king. In return, the king ensured the safety of the guild's commerce. Thus, the interplay of trade and politics painted a vibrant picture of the northern savanna kingdoms of Nigeria. Islam found its way into Hausaland through the veins of caravan routes, subtly infusing its teachings into the fabric of the land. The esteemed Kano Chronicle offers a glimpse into this transition, documenting the conversion of Kano's ruling dynasty under the spiritual guidance of clerics from Mali. This highlights the reach of Mali's imperial influence, which extended well into the eastern territories. The adoption of Islam in Hausaland was neither immediate nor total. It occurred at a measured pace, often superficial in the countryside where the roots of folk religion ran deep. Elements of non-Islamic practices remained, notably in the court ceremonies of the Hausa kings. Yet, over time, cities like Kano and Katsina, renowned for their majestic mosques and prestigious schools, became vibrant contributors to the cultural and intellectual milieu of the Islamic world. The landscape of Hausaland began to shift in the 13th century with the arrival of Fulbe pastoralists, known in Nigeria as Fulani. By the 15th century, they were tending to cattle, sheep, and goats in Borno as well. Hailing from the Senegal River Valley, the Fulani had developed a unique system of livestock management based on transhumance, involving seasonal north-south movement in search of pasture and water. This pattern aligned seamlessly with the rhythm of the rainy and dry seasons. The Fulani, drawn by the allure of the east, began to expand their territories. The journey took them through the heartlands of the Mali and Songhai empires, eventually leading them to Hausaland and Borno. As early as the 11th century, some Fulani embraced Islam in the Senegal region. One particular group of Muslim Fulani, distinguished by the devout faith and education, integrated into the cities, blending seamlessly with the Hausa to the point of racial indistinguishability. This group offered their knowledge and religious insight to the Hausa kings, serving as government advisors, Islamic judges, and teachers. Meanwhile, the nomadic Fulani, identifiable by their lighter skin, retained the distance from the Hausa and, to some extent, from Islam as well. These pastoral nomads continued to live outside the cities, their lives inextricably linked to the cycles of their cattle and the call of the pastures. Thus, the intricacies of faith, culture, and pastoral life intertwined to shape the vibrant tapestry of Hausaland. Nigeria's ancient kingdoms stand out as radiant threads, each weaving a tale of power, sophistication, and immense cultural significance. Before the shadow of colonialism was cast upon its shores, Nigeria was a land where monarchs ruled, art flourished, and great empires like the Ni, Oyo, and Kanem Bornu rose and fell, each leaving an indelible mark on the sands of time. As we journeyed together through this video, we saw more than just rulers and realms. We witnessed the soul of a nation, proud and undaunted. Let's not merely remember Nigeria for the borders drawn by colonial powers, but for its vibrant mosaic of kingdoms that once were. For in understanding our past, we pave a pathway to a richer future. Thank you for traveling back in time with us, and may the stories of Nigeria's ancient kingdoms continue to inspire and educate generations to come.